Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to discuss about project management and task management tools and how to choose the best tool for you and for your business. So we have to distinguish a little bit between when you are a solopreneur running your own business on your own, where you do have really the choice of the tools you're going to take, and when you have a team, or even if it's just a team of one, you have a VA, you're outsourcing some of the tasks, there are requirements that differ a little bit. So if you are working on your own and you're not outsourcing, you're not planning on outsourcing either, because if you are planning on outsourcing, I would really recommend to get a proper task management system in place before you need to do it. So you get the time for you to get, you have the time to get used to it. In that case, all you need really is make sure that you have a good system to track your tasks. And what does that mean? It means that you need to have your task written down clearly as an action. You want always to describe your task as an action. So it's clear and understandable what needs to be done. This is not just a description. We are trying to do things, so we need to use verbs in that. So this is, for instance, create presentation for webinar, not just webinar. Webinar is not enough. We need more, and we need the action. The action is to create the presentation, or the action is to schedule meeting with client A, right? So we really want to make sure we have this description that's very clear. We want to make sure that we have a due date, and even more than that, just the due date, we might want to have also a time, right? This is a very big thing. I'm a very big fan of time blocking. Think about the concept of, if an object doesn't have a space, then it doesn't exist. And this is the same thing for your task. If your task doesn't have a time in your calendar to be done, then this task is not going to be done. Literally, you need time to do it. If you're working on your own, if you're outsourcing, it's the same idea, but with someone else's calendar. So you want to have a due date at the very bare minimum. And ideally, you want to also put a time when you're going to do this task. And the third thing, if you're working on your own, this one is pretty obvious, but if you are outsourcing, you want to put who the assignee is, who's going to be in charge of the task. If you have a bigger team, apart from the assignee, you might want to put the owner of the overall project. So let's say you are working on a project, you're designing a website, and you have multiple tasks within designing a website. You have the wireframes, you have the developments, you have the copy. There are a lot of different tasks. Each task might have a different assignee. Now, you still want to have one person in charge of this whole project, which would be a project manager if you have one, or someone on the team who's going to take the responsibility for that project. So you might want to have that if you have a team and not working on your own. Working on your own, pretty obvious, it's you, the assignee, but this is also an important one. Now, once you have these three very important pieces, you want to have a system, which means a place where you're going to put this task. If you are working on your own and you're a big, big fan of paper, whiteboards, anything that's not digital, it is fine. I know this is weird coming from me doing digital implementation and AI automation, but still, paper can work as long as you are on your own and not planning to outsource. This also works if you are organized with your papers. If your papers are all over your space and you can't find your to-do list for today, this is not going to work, right? So this has a little bit of requirement here. You need to be organized and you need to be working on your own. As long as you are working with other people, this is not going to cut it. If you are working with other people, you do need to have a digital tool where you're going to put the tasks so you can assign them to other people. So now we get to the very important piece of how do you choose which tool to use? There are so many of them. Most probably you've heard some of the names out there. There is ClickUp, Monday, Trello, Asana, Basecamp. Depending where you are and which country you're in, there are different fashion and different tools who are more popular than others. So my trick when I work with a client really is to try and understand how their brain works. And this is kind of weird because this is very much more psychological and the way people like to think than anything technical. I'll give you an example. I work with a lot of creatives. So web designers, marketing designers, all kind of designers, interior designers. And designers have a crazy brain. And most of the time, they do like to see their information in a very visual and sleek way. Meaning, for most creative, and it's not always true because people have different, they can be creative and also analytical at the same time. But in general, for most creatives, tools like Excel, which is not a task tool, but tools that are list based are not necessarily great tools because they are not visual enough. Tools like Monday.com or Trello are very, very popular among creatives, because they are very visual. So I will show screenshots and I'm just going to go through some of the other ones and you can go and decide for yourself. Now, for people who really like lists and love to write, and if they could, would take a piece of paper and put that on their computer. First of all, you have two things. You can use some kind of notebook like Remarkable, where you can actually write and it gets digitalized. This is one option. This is not necessarily what I would recommend because it's still not integrated enough with other tools, but it could work. The other tool that's very much loved by people who like to write is Notion. Notion basically is a series of white pages. This is a little bit more tricky when you're trying to set it up for task management because it can become a little bit messy if you don't create your task properly. But if this is a great tool, for instance, if you want to write your SOPs, if you want to keep track of everything that's going on in your business in terms of procedures, this is a great place. So Notion is a great place for people who like to write. And now we have people who love Excel-like. They like tables. If they have to write on a whiteboard, that's already going to be in the shape of a table. For these people, Airtable. Airtable is a great tool. It has a little bit implementation time and implementation knowledge to put in, but this is literally the best tool for people who love Excel but want something a little bit more advanced. One of the competitors of Airtable, Smart Suite, is also a good option. So now I'm going to give you a little tour of some of the tools. And here you go. So this is Airtable. I am an Airtable person. All my business is on Airtable. So here you can see this is some of the to-do list. This is a very complicated setup, but not everyone has to be that complicated with the setup. What I do love with my Airtable is that my tasks are automatically created from Phasm. When I have meetings with my clients, then I get action items written down by Phasm and sent automatically to my tool, which saves me a lot of time. This is a different topic and a different video around automations. But this is Airtable, really looking like an Excel spreadsheet, and you can also use the calendar view. This is a great tool for people who like Excel-like or always go back to Excel no matter what they're trained. Now we have, actually, we're going to go with Notion, which should have been open already. This is Notion-like, right? So very much looking like some kind of white page, right? Where you can write your information. You can literally just create new pages, right? So I can create a new page and type. So that's why I was saying this is very much for people who like white pages and like to write. And as you can imagine, because we can just so easily create pages, it becomes very easy to get lost and to forget that you already have something created. So you need to be very strict about categorizing your pages. Now I'm going to move to the next piece of tool, which is next two tools are really used by creatives because of the way they look. First one is Monday.com. So Monday.com is a task management. Now they also have some CRM piece that can be used. It's a different product. So if you work with Monday's work management, you won't have access to the CRM. But if you work with the Monday CRM, then you can use the CRM for task management. So think about that when you are choosing your plan. And literally, this is workspaces, you have boards, and typically you would have one board per project. If these are complex projects, you might have an overview board with multiple projects, um, just to keep track of all your projects. Or if these are simple projects, you can have that and subtask. This is very slick and very easy to use. You have your owner by default, your status, very important actually. Forgot that one. When we discussed about the tasks, you need to have status on your task. If you work on your own, usually it's very easy. You know what's going on and you know what's been done, but still it's nice and psychologically actually rewarding to write off tasks that have been done. If you are working with team members, it's very important for them to update their tasks so you can know as the business owner where they are holding up. In Monday, you can also open a little bit more spaces where you can communicate on the task, put updates, files, and so on and so forth. It can be customizable. It should be customized so you have the proper workflow around your tool, which is going to be our last piece for today's session. The last one I'm going to show you, but there are a lot more tools. And if you have any questions, just make sure you ask the questions in the comments. The last tool, but not the least, is Trello. Trello is an Atlassian tool, meaning it's owned by the group that also has Jira and Confluence and some of these big tools used by enterprise, but they also have this Trello tool, which started literally just as a Kanban view. You used to have only the option to create cards and move them from one place to the other. So this is an example. We're going to create a new task. This wants to work. No, it doesn't want. And because I am in the template, sorry, should have done that before. We are going to go back to a real board. Trello, as you can see, was putting also other things. Here we go. Now we create new cards, right? And then we can just move them from one status to the next one. This really should be the way it's done. And now you have also more, you have calendar views and you can actually create different kind of views on Trello. This is a great tool for people who like to see and like the idea of moving from one place to the other. This is a little bit more tricky when you're trying to manage multiple projects and you need to have overviews. So less convenient for bigger teams, but still a very solid tool. Now that we've seen all of this, what is the last thing that we need to think about? This is stop sharing. The last thing that we need to think about is the workflow around your tool. How are you going to use your tool? When are you going to use your tool? So this is very important because very often a tool, especially a task management tool, is going to be set up, to support or customize to support the actual fields that are needed to track the information that you want to track in your project, which is great because this is the beginning. But this is only the beginning. Your task management tool doesn't live in a vacuum. You really want to have that incorporated into your daily routine. So you need to think about this daily routine and look at your whole day. And this is a very different perspective from what usually we think when we are trying to customize the task management tool. So think about, what do you do in the morning? When do you want to go on your tool? If you are doing time blocking, then you're going to live mostly on your calendar, because this is where your tasks are going to be set up. So you want to make sure that your calendar is integrated with your tool and that you can easily get the information. This becomes much more complicated because then we need to look into which tool is going to integrate with the calendar you're using. Now, the other thing we want to do is are you going to update your tasks? Are you going to update your tasks each time you finish them or by a bunch of time? Or, as I might recommend sometimes on a daily basis, you want to go at the minimum in your task management tool in the morning so you know what's going on and what you need to do during the day. And you also want to go before your end of day. This is not going to be in your tool. This is around the routine on how you should work. And this is something that's usually not discussed so much, but this is also important in the success of using your tool. At the end of your day, make sure that you take the last 5, 10, 15 minutes, depending on how busy your day is, of your day to review what you've done during the day. Make sure your tool is up to date, especially if you're working with a team, and prepare your tool for the next day. Make sure that your tasks are there, due dates are there, and the time when you're going to work on your task if you do the time blocking. This is really crucial, and this is the difference I've seen over and over with my clients in having a tool that is nice looking and not used, and a tool that is actually useful for you. How are you going to use this tool? There you go. This is my little trick. Make sure that you are reviewing and using the proper tool for you so it can really help you and help you save times. If you have any questions, make sure to put them in the comment section.